Good evening, good evening. Hopefully everybody is doing well. Should be able to hear me. Let me move a few things around. I got several mouses running here. Did I get one with a dead battery? Yeah, there we go. Hopefully everybody is doing well. It's been one of those weeks. I actually have questions that I get all the time. I wrote them down this time. I'm going to answer those in the very beginning here. Talk a little bit about some of the sales, what's been going on. Market values I discussed in a video for Patreon. It just went up like an hour ago. Those in Patreon, all of the questions, everything's already been addressed last 2 straight days. Matt and a few others, I just hit you guys up just before the show as well. Lots of stuff's been going on. This week has been up and down, but sales-wise, it's been really good. This past weekend, we ran some sales ahead of time, trying to get in on the Black Friday and the whole works, and we were swamped. We've sold more this past weekend than I did any other weekend the entire year up to that point. So it's been a really good week for eBay. I had a ton going out. I was really behind on Monday. Finally getting caught back up, believe it or not. It's just been a really busy week. That sale allowed us to push out like around 200 offers to watchers every day, and we were selling a bunch of them. I mean, it was a really good weekend. Everybody stayed away from the stores, so I was praying, some things would happen in movement, and it would be just a smash up for us. So everything went really well. Hopefully everybody else took advantage of what was going on this past weekend. I figured this kind of sets the stage for what's going to happen through the rest of the year in my book, and even going into next year, 2021. I kind of figured that's what would happen. I figured it would be mostly an online. A lot of people have already got what they want, or they can't spend the money, and things like that. So it's been a pretty interesting week for many reasons, though. But again, I look at market trends and market value and things like that, especially when there's markets that I sell in. I should say niche value, the market value of a niche or something like that. Again, I talk about that in Patreon, and there's a lot of stuff going on and happening with the pandemic, and it is affecting quite a few markets in many different ways. So anyway, that's part of it there. Before I hop on and holler out some names, I do want to get to the questions because I'm always bad on not getting to them. And I had a bunch of the same ones. I'll do the first one here. Do you play all your records before you list them? No, I don't play. Maybe 98% of the records go straight up without playing a single one of those. It's that last 2% that are high dollar or may have an issue with them in the grooves that will make me play them. Once you've done records for a long time, and I'm not exaggerating, you can look at the disc, the vinyl, and you can tell if it's going to play. Like 99.9% of the time, you're going to be right if you've played a lot and know enough about records, and I found that to be fairly true. So I never have an issue. If they're NM minus or you're buying VG plus, very good plus, you're not going to have any issue. Buy condition wise like that. The only ones that I play are the high dollar ones. If I'm going to get, say, $300-$400 or more, I'm going to play it. If I'm going to get $500-$600 to $1,000 range or higher, which we've sold records as high as $4,000 for 145, I record the entire thing from start to finish, both sides. Even if I don't post that online, I record it. So if somebody comes back and says that the disc doesn't play, I've got a copy straight from that. I'll speak in the beginning of it, what it is. So the whole works is recorded in the whole works. I do usually put a clip up, the first 15 seconds of each side, sometimes 20 seconds, depending on the listing. I tie that to the listing when I list something like that. But no, I don't play the majority of them. I do play records just to hear them or get my own burn copy of it. Other than that, I don't play them. I like listening to the music, so I actually play them not for any other reason except to listen to it. The next one, I had I think I gave up counting, or I had one of the kids count, on the placemats that I put out. I put a video on placemats. It's something that we always, I've never not sold a placemat. Let's just put it that way. They always sell for us, and they always sell in the same price range and all. There is a video. I've got a video up from it. To ship those, I ship them the exact same way that I ship sheet music, large format sheet music. If they're big placemats, I get and use a 16-inch cube. It's the extra large box at Walmart. It'll cost you, I think they're like $178, somewhere in that range, if I'm not mistaken. You'll use one side of that box, so you can divide that $178 by 4. That's how much you're going to spend to send one of those out. You can add that in as a shipping and handling fee of $1 on the bigger items if you want, and it'll negate any of the fees or anything like that. So it won't cost you anything, but ship it just like a sheet music. If they're valuable and they go for 100 and some odd bucks, I use 2 of those sheets. So if it's a very expensive sheet music, I'll wrap 2 pieces of cardboard around it instead of the one shown in the video. So it'll be half a box. So it'd be half of $178 for the large one. So, roughly what, 88 cents or 87 cents and some odd change or whatever it is. So add an extra $1 if you're going to do it that way. But that was a big question. I had a ton of people ask that. That's probably the biggest shipping question this week I had, with the most ever on something like that. Shipping wise, to pay for your shipping, you can now have your shipping costs taken out of the money you would get paid back. There is an option in there under preferences. It's a radio button. You can pick PayPal. I think it's our setup. I have a PayPal option, or I can do it straight from my payouts. So I just do PayPal still because I have money coming in to PayPal from other sources. So there's always enough in my PayPal account. We do business on other sites. I do business with other people. So PayPal is still very fine with me. We actually use some of their PayPal for business features these days now too. You can drop, codes and UPC things and all kinds of stuff all over the place with PayPal. They've offered a whole bunch of stuff since they've basically been kicked to the side somewhat by eBay. So if you want to have your money or your fees for your shipping, you can't. I think it's under managed payment screen. I think it's under maybe site preferences to get to there if you're unaware. I found it within just a few moments, 20, 30 seconds with a couple of clicks, like 3 or 4 clicks. So it shouldn't be that hard to find. But there's a radio button, which is just a little square. You click it. Those are called radio buttons. And you'll be able to switch it. So if you don't have a PayPal, you're not using PayPal, you can take it out of the money you just got in. No big deal. No big deal. I haven't had any complaints on managed payments, in all honesty. Well, let me phrase that differently. I haven't had any problems or complaints with how it's been running. I do have an issue still with them ditching coins, adult material, and all that kind of stuff. That's been a big ordeal. I just picked up some really nice banknotes. I might show a video in Patreon on those, but there's some really nice, interesting items that I've just never seen before, and they're high dollar. I may have to do a PSA because then I can just list them on Amazon. If you PSA stuff, at least I can. I don't know how everybody else can, but I list PSA items on Amazon like that, money, currency, and things like that. Just FYI, I don't know what everybody else does, but it's a viable area. Hey, Annie. I just saw Annie pop in here. Annie's got a channel, if you didn't know that. I do watch occasionally some of hers. They're playing in the background. She's got a good store. I actually purchased something from Annie. She did a great job all the way around. It was something for the wife. There was actually some Southern postcards. In fact, there were several from 2 places we lived, so it was really neat to see the building. I do collect things. So anyway, thank you very kindly, Annie. If you get a chance, check out Annie's page. Her channel and her page, but just FYI, I do occasionally pop up and buy stuff for the wife, for us. We collect Weebles. I've bought Weebles from 2 or 3 subscribers in the past. Just FYI. So anyway, thank you, Annie. Let me get a few more questions out. I wrote down 5, and then I got some topics as well too. Again, Patreon market value. We're going to talk about that because it's important, and it'll play into some of the things I've been holding on to for a while, and you'll get a better reason on things going on. And it borders on a whole bunch of categories. So, next one, thrift stores or swap meets, which is better? And the question, I have had several on thrift stores, garage sales, and flea markets as well. I get that kind of question. It's probably 30 or 40 of them this past month. I've had the kids will go through and write down when there's the same question over and over again. They'll scan through them. So I'm trying to write them down and at least answer them out. So at least I get big groups of people your questions answered without having too much issue. We'll holler out some names in just a minute, not to be rude. I just want to get some questions answered here. I don't go to thrift stores, almost to nil. And last year I may have went a half a dozen times the entire year. Garage sales last year for the entire year, maybe a half a dozen times. This year, maybe one or two. I did stop by a place just the other day, and I picked up a few things. I was out, mask on and, all that kind of stuff. I was waiting on somebody to purchase something, and we just met at a place we could source a little bit at too. Only reason I went somewhere. I never have luck at places like that. Flea market's always good for me. So if I had a choice, it's always going to be a flea market or an estate sale over any garage sale, any thrift store around here. That's just me. I don't like to drive around. If I can't target and know what I'm going to get ahead of time, I'm usually not going to go out and even mess or look at it at all. It's just not worth my time anymore. We are completely, and I do mean completely stocked up. I've got, not to over-exaggerate in any way, I've probably got more than 500,000 items sitting in here that haven't been touched or listed in any way, shape, or form. For the most part, other than some buttons and some comics, I got some Golden Age comics the other day, a real massive assortment from somebody. It was his father's. He inherited them. He needed the money. I've been on these things for like 3 years trying to get them. And I finally got him. He needed the money. I'm not like a vulture. I gave him a real nice price, more than I would have ever paid anybody else, just because he's somebody I know. He's a friend. So, most everything else is paid for. I'll sell a few things here out of a lot. I've just got so much merchandise. I don't care to go out to certain places unless I'm going to Target, get something, and I'm coming right back. I don't like to waste time. And around here, the thrift stores are terrible. The garage sales aren't much better. People show up the night before, trying to get them to sell them stuff. And it's just a terrible cutthroat market around here. There's some great resellers around here, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of really bad ones that, like, they'll show up in a estate sale a day or two ahead of time while they're getting it ready, and they'll bribe. I mean, just all kinds of stuff that go on, and they'll camp out, they'll switch off, and just on and on and on types of things that just scoop in on the best sales, and it's just not my cup of tea. I'm just a more mellow person. I don't like all that cutthroat atmosphere. Let's get to the last question here real quick. I think that answers that one. Auctions versus bins. Bins 100% of the time, or 99.9% of the time, I will do a bin. Buy it now with a BO, best offer. That's usually the best result, unless it's something odd or scarce. There's a few items I will auction. Talking about on eBay, I do things on other sites, so other sites would be totally different. Some items don't go up on eBay at all anymore because there's better markets for certain items. Knowing where to list something or where to get the most money out of something is more along the lines of what I've been working on more so now than ever before. The markets have changed a lot in the last 3 to 4 years or so, I would say. This year they've changed immensely. Many of the ones I'm in have changed immensely for the better for most of them. So I'm very happy with the way things are going with the markets. And again, not talking about the environment or pandemic or anything. I'm just talking about business markets and stuff like that. So, I am a bin person. If you want to know what's best for whatever item you got, just go to TerraPeak. You can tell very easily. You can sort them down by bins versus auctions. You can see the gross volume of the merchandise, GMV, of one of the bins versus the auctions. And you can compare the difference. You can find the same items, dozens of them. You can pick items like more common items in that same category you're in, and you can see that like 70% of the time or better, they're selling more on a bin than they are as an auction. There's just more opportunity to let it run longer and have the right person see it, I guess. That's the biggest thing. I sell stuff that have been up for like 4 and 5 years these days. It just takes the right person. I'm not marking some things down. They just been sitting up for a while. And these days with the new fee structure, there's no reason for you not to let stuff run. We get 75,000 listings basically, and it doesn't cost us like anything extra, anywhere from 25 to 75,000. So, if I just throw a bunch of stuff up and let it sit, who cares? I sell stuff that's been up for, 4 or 5 years for top dollar, like $80, $100, $200, whatever the case may be. I know at some point some items are going to sell. It just takes the right person online. In the collectibles, it's not the same way with clothing and NOS and FBA and all that stuff. It's totally different. These are two different markets. A lot of people don't get the difference between, selling home goods and things like that, clothing, shoes, or whatever. There's nothing wrong with selling any of that. I'm not trying to criticize or cut on it. It's just they're totally different approaches to the business. We did all that. I still do some of it, but you've got more playroom doing vintage and collectibles. And I think that I'll answer some other questions in the feed in just a second. I think the biggest difference between NOS, FBA, new NOS, home goods and stuff, and vintage collectibles is that the NOS, home goods and all that kind of stuff, FBA, the market is set by the items, by basically manufacturer, supply and demand, as opposed to with collectibles, a large chunk of the items that I sell, I can set the price. I don't have to go by any flow. I don't have to worry about competition or anything like that. In my book, I don't have that issue. Sometimes, and I was talking to somebody just the other day. In fact, I was talking to 2 or 3 people, and we touched on the same topic. Some items, I just throw a price out there based on my own experience. I don't even look them up at all because I've sold a bunch of them, and I don't really care what anybody else sells them for. I know what I get for them. It doesn't matter what somebody else puts them at to me. Certain categories and niches, I know what I get. It doesn't matter anymore at all at going and researching like a big chunk of what we sell, because they're always in certain ranges by certain types and things like that. So anyway, let's pop back up here. I've got a bunch of laptops open, so it's somewhat back and forth. Charles, hey Charles, how are you doing? I'm in a Christmas spirit too. We got our Christmas tree up. I'll get some pictures and stuff. Just did a plain one for this year. Spent more time on other things. It looks really. We bought some new lights. I guess that's the biggest thing. Red Cardinal Treasures, how are you doing? Trina Cirque, how are you doing? Brian Campbell, good evening. Retrohead, Mark Jones. Sales have been doing great on eBay and Amazon. Yeah, sales have been good across the board. Where haven't we been doing good at? Etsy hasn't been so good. That's the only one I can think of. Some of the other, like the hit platforms, there's been some issues of people offering and then never paying and stuff. I think I've never had so much issue on other sites until now. I don't have the issue on the main sites though, and it's a small percentage. It's nothing big. Let me pop down. Hey Daryl, how are you doing? Daryl Carolina Picks in the house. Jacqueline's One Stop Store, how are you doing? Bob Walter. Where are we at? Dirt Road Picker, how you doing? DJ Sales. Greetings from Athens, Greece. Wow, that's a ways away. Tassos. My neighbor, when I grew up, was from Greece. My mom still lives next door to them, so they go back like once every 7, 8 months, something like that. I know their son spoke Greek. Hey, Penny, how's Penny Day doing? Amazon Seller 99, good evening. Same here, busiest weekend we've ever had. Still going crazy now. Should be a great December. Yes, that's my take on it. I have no complaints at all in what's going on. I want to talk about something here. I did a video on Thanksgiving, and I had people saying, nice acting job, nice this, nice that. I don't think, maybe they've had, born with the silver spoon in their mouth. I don't know. I don't know how, everybody else lives. I've never had this kind of luck or this kind of change in my life from all the hard work, from a college degree and a master's degree and everything else, than when I went full-time reselling. After a few years, my life has changed in every way. That video was truthful. I really am thankful for what I do. I worked some really terrible jobs for 20 years of my life, and I wasted 20 years of my life. And I missed key moments like my kids' first steps, first words. You know, it's stuff that I'm never going to get back. It's a lost part of my life. And you know, it's such a big difference. When I go to a store, when me and the wife were married and we had just had kids, you know, they were young infants and toddlers. I had to count. We had to remember, you know, and count how much groceries we were buying. Make sure we didn't go over our budget for that week. And if we did, we didn't buy it. It went back. We were very strict. If we had $80, that's all we spent. Not even a dime over it. These days, I don't have to worry about any of that. I never have to think if there's enough in an account or anything. Or time. I mean, I can't express it enough. It was I'm not saying troubling. It's just I can't believe people don't get the aspect of freedom, how much of a difference it makes in your mentality, your life, your stress levels. I don't understand. I guess maybe they've never had a terrible job or haven't toiled for years for somebody else to make all the money, and you end up not having anything to show for, you know, years of dedicated service for somebody. I don't know. But I can just tell you that video is true. I am completely and utterly thrown back by things that have happened over just reselling in general. So take it how you want. I don't really care. That's literally how I feel. You know, and I'm grateful every morning I wake up realizing that I don't have to go somewhere. I don't have to go and report to some idiot boss who just graduated, doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know the field, wants to change up everything. And, you know, I've been through all that. It's freedom. I don't care about anything else. I don't care if I'm rich. Being able to be with my family and the freedom. That's all I really care about. I've missed way too much of my, you know, my kids are both adults now, you know. I'm getting older, and it's just not, you know, it's a big difference in my life. I don't know what I'd be doing if I still had to work in a restaurant as a general manager or as a regional manager. It's a terrible way of life. You know, it's, you know, supported and paid for my kids to be raised and all, but, you know, I don't have a lot to show for it. I don't have, you know, time or experiences with my kids. You know, we've lived in some places I had to travel and move and all kinds of stuff over it. So anyway, enough on that. I just wanted to put that out there. Let me see, where are we at? Kind of lurking over here. Hey, Annie. Yep. Yeah, my wife, we buy postcards from Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. I've talked about it. I do stuff with postcards. We do collect. I do buy. I do my own artwork, and I produce my own very own postcards that we created, every little aspect of it. So postcards are one area that I always mess with. Do you use file exchange? No, I do not. Jacqueline's One Stop. I like running auctions, but getting the bidder to pay is a struggle. That's why I like Pay It Now. I don't do Pay It Now on anything. Buy It Now. When I put a bin of Buy It Now up on there, they don't have to pay immediately ever on my store. I've actually deactivated that so it doesn't force them to pay. I sell a lot to the same person. Just 20 minutes before this show went on, I sold 7 rosary sets, vintage ones, to the same person through about an hour and a half time frame. The last one sold, and they requested a invoice on it literally like 20 minutes before I started the show. And that's like a daily occurrence. I've got two offers pending that are to the same person right this very second on my phone. Maybe there's more now, but just before I started the show, I had 2 that just showed up, and I didn't honestly have a chance. And there's one more that just showed up, but I didn't have a chance to take the offers, because then I'd have to have combined them. I combine orders probably 3 or 4 times a day, every day of the week lately in this season here. And I let people, especially the ones that have been buying from me for 4 and 5 years, they might pay at the end of the week, or even sometimes at the end of the month. So I never ever worry about forcing somebody to pay. If they don't pay after 7 days is my payment window usually, unless they contact me. On the 8th day, I usually will open up a case. Sometimes I wait till the 10th day. I'm not in a hurry. If they don't pay right away, or even if they don't pay, all I do is open up a case. At the end of the day, I let it run usually longer than I have to. If they don't pay, I block them, and I relist the... Well, I don't relist it. I have to go change quantity because of my settings on there. My listings don't show or don't go to completed and ended. But anyway, just FYI, that's how I do it. I never mess with any of that stuff. I like having the ability to combine them later instead of having to reimburse now shipping. I only charge actual shipping. So let's say 7 people bought or one person bought 7 different things at 7 different times. Every time if they were forced to pay, you're going to pay 30 cents more each time they pay separately. So 30 cents times 7, you've got $2.10. I can avoid any of that hassle and any of that other stuff dealing with it if I just let them combine it and don't force immediate payment on it. It never bothers me at all. The amount of people, amount of times that I have to end a case without somebody paying, maybe once every 3 or 4 months, honestly. The worst ones are toys and comic books for me, and those don't happen very often either. Usually because it's younger people sometimes buying it. They don't have the money, or they saw another one a little cheaper and they just never mess with yours. It happens all the time. Well, not all the time, but it happens more frequently in those categories. Let's see where we at. Julie Christ John Breckley, how are you doing? Kate May, been up there once or twice. Joe Deals, good evening. Orbit Rashi. Yeah, I love going out and sourcing, don't get me wrong, but it comes to a point where business says you should do this. I don't need a source. I go out to have fun. Sourcing isn't essential right now at all. I wish you could see the massive quantity of stuff. If I just counted buttons, I've got 70,000 listing. I don't know, some insane amount of items to list just in there. Records, hundreds of thousands. Cards, postcards, stamps. You mean I could list one item for months and switch over if I get bored and keep doing this for a couple of years probably. I pick categories that the merchandise isn't going to devalue, and the price is usually going up, and I usually get my money back right away. I'm not paying a lot for it, so I don't mind. I don't mind doing a little prospecting work and taking a little chance on things based on, market values and things like that. Again, Patreon, there's a video. Pay attention to the market value aspect of it. That's what the video is more about, just in general. A lot of things have happened and changed in some markets here, and you should have been paying attention to them if you're selling in them. Postcard markets changed a little bit just since March, April. Many categories have. Comic books, sports cards, non-sports, a lot of categories across the board. I'm just playing on that, playing on those changes. MPXXX. We don't even really have estate sales like I've seen in the U.S. It's all companies doing it. Estate sales around here can be companies as well, too, and in most areas. Some companies might run 2 or 3 estate sales in the same weekend around here if they're big ones. They'll just have a couple lines or something like that. Some of the estate sale companies around here run auctions and estate sales. So at the end of the day, you got to know stuff like that if you're going to go and do these markets, because at the end of the day, a auction estate seller, basically they'll auction stuff off first, and what's left over they may throw into an estate sale months down the road. It's not fresh material, it's just leftovers, and you got to realize and figure out which ones do that the most and things like that. Those are the ones I usually stay away from, because they may have tried to sell something 3 or 4 times and then try and play it off like it's new, and a lot of newbies might miss that. No offense to anybody, it happens. I've seen it. Nina Sullivan, let's pop down just a little bit here. Hello from Alabama. I own a thrift store, plan on getting a lot of my inventory online over the coming year. Have tons of inventory. Hopefully you'll do well. Thrift store wise around here, I don't know what they are lately. Not a lot of traffic in them from what I see for sure though, because we did go by a couple and I didn't see hardly anybody in the parking lot considering. Obviously, it would be those folks, probably, in my opinion, that are diehard and have to get inventory in, so they're forced to go out into the thrift stores. Around here, before the pandemic, they weren't good. I'm not going to hold up much faith that they will be good. I know at one point people were finding a lot of stuff. People were at home, so they were cleaning up and just donating stuff. But I've heard thrift stores overwhelmed with just junk stuff and all this other things. So anyway, Girl Hustle, how are you doing this evening? Joe Miles, good evening. Chandra, let me pop down. Hang on just a second here. Hang on, my feed's acting. Are you a collector? Good evening. How are you doing as well? Yeah, if you haven't hit the thumbs up, please hit the thumbs up. I'm terrible at saying something about that. Really love to get to the 100 mark before the show's over. We're barely halfway into it now anyway. John Willis, good evening. Carl the Lazy Reseller, good evening. Duncan, how's Duncan doing? Too much going on, sales through the roof. Kathy's sales also are amazing this week. Yeah, I talked to Kathy. She gave me a breakdown on her sales, which was pretty cool. So excellent help there on that, Duncan. No, I haven't watched anybody else's video this whole week. You got some stamps. I'll have to check that out. Well, Hornbuckle, good evening. Any plans for Art Professor for... Time has been my biggest... Man, I'm being pulled in like 20 different places. We've got something else going on. I signed a contract with somebody, and I actually signed another one just a few days ago, honestly. They're paid gigs. I took something. It's not advertising. I'm not promoting or anything like that, but some of my education has paid off a little bit. But so one came up, and now a second one. So, and I've got another couple projects. We've got a book or so in the process. I've actually got some negotiations going on, and we're arguing over price now. So I'm going to be selling a transcript, basically. Hey, there's Dom. Dom's in the house. I'll have to ask him about his stamp collection there, see what he got. I love stamps. It's one of the biggest areas that I've been into probably the longest. I inherited stamps like when I was 7. I've been into stamps for a very, very, very long time. And I got Unicorns Don't Lie. Girl Hustle. Corn Fed 420. Let's see here. People can put things in cart and get combined shipping, but to each their own. It doesn't work in the cart. Mine never ever works on combined on the cart at all. I don't have any luck with that. Every time it goes to the cart, it's kicks something out, especially if it's anything related to the media category. If I've got one media in there, I can't send anything. And I've got everything set up. I've been dealing with eBay for this for the longest. I just gave up on the whole cart because I've added in, it's supposed to be like items. The shipping's never right. I always have to go back in on the cart and adjust the shipping because the weight-wise never fixes it in the categories with first class for us ever. I've went through that. I gave up. I'm tired of complaining and nothing happening. Just like why I don't call or worry about it when it doesn't let me ship a media rate in a non-meteor. I just go to Pirate Ship. I'm done dealing with eBay with those issues. It's just a waste of your time. eBay intentionally did that. They intentionally collect the money, but they intentionally don't allow you to ship out media mail in categories that aren't media mail, even though it's a media mail legally allowed to ship out item. It's annoying. But, I avoid dealing with it. It's just not worth my time. I got phone service. I've had phone service this whole time, with Anchor Store support. It's just not worth the time. They still can't fix it. It's just not worth my time. I wish the cart worked like it was supposed to, but it just never does. Aaron Downs, the market in the UK for things you sell, such as inferior, does not appear to be as lucrative as it is in the US. Do you have any advice, as I tend to get stuck with things a long time? Like postcards. Postcards are a U.S. market. Trade cards, U.S. market. Most of what I sell is U.S., mostly specifically. I rarely sell a U.K. item, in all honesty. I stay away from most foreign postcards. There's some U.K. train-related, some seacoast cities, some cities that have had the name changed, some cities that aren't there, have been incorporated in something else that sell. China and things like that. Other than that, I don't honestly have much luck. Brochures or advertisement or travel, it just doesn't seem to be a collectible in England for the most part. There are some postcard collectors, but I don't have a lot of advice on those from England other than like the railroad stuff tie-ins. Those always do well. Even like railroad tickets. If it's a U.S. ticket, and I picked up some really, really fine, spectacular ones I'll show off in Patreon, but a railroad ticket over here, I could get $200-300 for them from certain areas. In England, I'm lucky to get $20 or $30 for the same basic era and scarcity. It just, I don't know. There's just not enough, I guess, paper collectors over there. I'm not sure. I wish I could give you some better advice on that, but I've run in the gambit. I used to sell and buy everything I could, thinking you could just do it, but it's literally so specifically tied to a U.S. market. I buy from England in places like that, too. We buy Weebles. Airfix makes the Weebles over there. I buy the European ones that are made by Kenner in Germany, France, and Netherlands area. We buy the Baristitos. The what's the one? We just bought a whole bunch of them from a Mexican dealer that we found some. Oh, geez, I can't remember the name of the company, but we buy all that stuff. So the markets are very specific. I don't find any certain things over here. No one tries to sell Airfix Weebles in this country. There's very few people that even know what they are. And I think it's the same type of thing. There's countries, certain things just aren't, they're not collected. It wasn't a big ordeal. I think like in here, postcards was a huge thing in 1910 through the 20s. It was a way to bring something back when you traveled 1,000, 2,000 miles across the country. In England, you can, get anywhere in a fairly reasonable amount of time, considering the distance it takes around here in this country. It's 30 minutes for somebody to get to work, and in England, you can hop on a train, or like New York, for example, you can be on the subway or something and be somewhere in a few minutes if you're in the right area. So, I don't know. I wish there was some better advice on that one. I don't sell enough of anything England or European of the paper items to say. I do sell records and stuff to England all the time, so I never have an issue selling to England. We're top rated plus, I think, in every global market there is on eBay, just because of sheer volume of stuff that we sell. But, yeah, speaking of prime time, as we said. Well, thank you, Trina. I've used this one for, I think, 2 years now. There's a couple that I pick and I just keep with them. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that very kindly. Paul Beagle, what do you pay your lister? They pay per hour, 10, 15 hour, depending on how long they've been here. No percentage. You can't pay somebody per listing legally anywhere in this country without tracking how much time it's taken them. You can't pay somebody, let's say someone's listing and they're only able to list you're like 10 items the first hour, and you're only giving them 20, 30, $1, whatever it is you're giving them, and it doesn't equal minimum wage. You have to pay them the difference. You can't, unless you're contracting. If they're an employee, you can't do that. As an employee, and I hire everybody, because then it goes under workman's comp, and I cover everything, and I'm in control of everything. It's not a huge ordeal. It's a business expense. It's all reported and all that kind of stuff. In fact, I got a kickback check from the state. I get one of those, like, I think every quarter. If I don't use workman's comp and all this other stuff, we got $160 back or something. I don't remember what the total was, but something like that. Hang on, where were we going with that? Yeah, so I pay by the hour. I pay well over minimum wage. What's minimum wage in the States? Like $7.55 or something like that. I pay $10 to $10.50 these days. So there's other people here that make more than that. Again, they've been here for 3 years now, so it's a little different on that. But you can't as an employer. You can do that, but if they get less than minimum wage, you have to pay the difference. So it's just not worth it. Then if you do it that way, you've got two forms of tracking, and it's just a nuisance. I just pay by the hour. Yeah, I sell international, as everybody knows. I do ship straight to some countries, and that is a good plus. How many years have I been a reseller? Honestly, it probably goes back to like 1978 was when I was making profits from trading for Star Wars trade cards. But I've been a full-time reseller now for like 10 years. We've sold on our weekends for like 25 plus years, 26 years or so. More, probably 27, because we were on Yahoo Auctions back in the day when Yahoo Auctions was there, and it was like just like a bulletin board almost. It was really generic, really cheap. You'd see listings without on auction without even photos back then, and they'd still sell. So it was just it's been a big change in these last 20 some odd years. Wow, never saw it like that. Makes sense. Do you have a video regarding your listing method and advising regarding free shipping or not? And promoted listings or not? I don't do free shipping on anything pretty much I sell. Clothing wise and like NOS and stuff like that, you pretty much have to do free shipping because most everybody does it. If you don't, you'll just have to figure it into your prices and just do free shipping. I haven't done promoted listings in like over a year since the ad blocker was found to be blocking promoted listings. I haven't touched them since. Not once. Not a single solitary listing has been promoted in well over a year. And it was something I used, but once they lied about it and were, in my book, my opinion, putting out false information on the percentage of blockage, I could never trust them to pay the extra money. Most of my stuff sells either way. It just takes the right person on. I don't care if it takes longer or not. I mean, that's just my opinion on it. Clothing-wise, I think I've got 27,000 listings in the store I share with you, and I think 4 of them have free shipping, and they're clothing-related items, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's down to 4 now. And once those sell, I probably won't have anything else that has free shipping in my store at all. Just the way I do it. Yeah, it depends, Aaron Downs, on what you're selling, I guess the point would be. Some people don't mind spending the money, and I say that because I send stuff overseas all the time, and they're buying something. Japan buys a ton of paper items from us. American vintage paper items are huge somewhere in Japan. And I've reached out, and I've talked to a couple Japanese vendors now, and fairly closely a few of them. They've given me some really good advice, and they've done a lot of business with me since then. But certain markets are good, certain markets are not. Some people, though, if it's the right item, don't care. Like the Japanese buyers, they're paying around $16 for a 3-ounce, one single card is what it basically costs. And now they can send 10 lots or so for that same price, so it doesn't cost any more over that. But the point is, they don't have any problem paying it, and I can afford to wheel around with the price when they're buying quantity. Again, that's why I don't want to force anybody to pay immediately, because then I'd have to worry about refunding $14.50 each time, and ties up money and all this other kind of stuff. Again, my shopping cart aspect doesn't work. It hasn't worked since I did it. I'll have to take a look at that one, Dom. Dom, good friend of the channel, of course, if you didn't know that. Nantique, good evening. Yeah, I got to the Lister one. Let me pop down. Hey, Nancy, how you doing? My feed just bopped all over the place. Hang on just a second. Let me figure out where I was at again. I think I'm almost there. Hang on, there we go. Almost there, sorry. Nancy, good evening. 1987 Ventures, good evening as well. Catskills. Just be careful with stamps, Dom. There's such a tiny difference in some stamps that if you're not careful, you can give away a ton of money. I've done it myself. So Duncan will know what grills are. I had some 1887, I think, series, U.S. series stamps, and I didn't realize there was an S-grill on them, which is embedded in the paper kind of thing, and you can only see it with certain chemicals, and I didn't check for it, and I ended up selling it. That was probably one of my biggest losses. We lost like $500. I could have made $500 more. You know, water under the bridge, but I learned my lesson that time. The person posted and even sent me a message, wow, I can't believe I got S, blah, 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 and told me what it was, and I didn't even think to check for it. But, you know, lesson learned. I moved on and haven't done that mistake again. Bryman, how are you doing? Deanna Rose, how are you doing? Well, glad to hear that. Well, thank you very kindly there. Joe Miles, how do you recommend someone could learn about stamps? Stamps, I've done some videos, detailed videos in Patreon. Stamps are Stamps are a monster on its own. It's probably harder in some aspects to determine stamps than any other category I deal in. In all honesty, stamps are hard. I know stamps because I've been into them for what would that be? 33 years, 34 years I've been into stamps. Stamps are tough. I don't talk about stamps on YouTube at all, honestly. I only do stamp talk, and I've got a video I've already recorded on stamps, actually, for Patreon. But I don't know anybody who gives away a lot of stamp secrets, honestly. Just because you don't want everybody knowing all the easier secrets on stamps. I don't, anyway. I make a ton of money on stamps. We've scored so many good stamps. I've got a bank security box just for stamps, a big one too. Stamps are a world of their own. Stamps are going to take you longer than anything else, would be my opinion. It'll take you months just to learn one little tiny area if you want to be proficient in it. I wish there was a source, but I mean, researching on eBay will help you at least figure out some of the more valuable ones, like centering in on, say, like airmails only because they're easier to figure out or something, BOB back of the books or something like that. There's no real easy way just to jump into it. In all honesty, there's a lot of terminology. I've definitely look into the terminology you need to know because specifics, the types, MN, NH, all the little OG and all that kind of stuff means so much in the stamp world, and it takes a lot. There's only one person I know that knows stamps as well as I do personally, and everybody else just usually asks us. I don't have an easy way in for you, honestly. I know Kathy has been trying to get into stamps and has been having, some help from Duncan and stuff, but it's hard even when you have, a lot of help. I'm just telling you. Chandra, let me pop down. I'm wondering if anyone is getting pushback from buyers on shipping. I just charge actual shipping and I had 3 buyers take me to task on the cost. Just print the cost on your label. You can click a little radio button and it'll add the cost. So if you're only charging actual cost, you can tell them to look at the package or calculate it themselves from their end. You can also add a handling fee, and if they don't like it, well, it's in there in a handling fee. You can do it as you want. I don't make a profit from shipping at all. I don't have any reason to try and make a profit from shipping. I get a fee on it. What's the sense? I refund all the time if somebody pays and they buy a couple items. Even if they don't ask, I combine shipping. I refund the difference and just ship them together with it. Thanks for your purchases. I've combined them for shipping and I'm refunding the difference. Do it all the time. It's easy on eBay. You can just click the button. I put I think it's the last option on the refund menu. When you do refunds on managed payment, there's a drop-down menu. I think there's like 6 options. I think the last one is other adjustment, I think is the one I use. And I just literally put what it's for, why I'm doing it in there. Thanks for the combined shipping. That way, if it ever comes back and eBay tries to ding you or say something about that, you've got reason why. And they can see the refund happened to compensate for shipping. I try to, even if it's not an issue, I try to cover myself. Maybe he got yeah, that would be interesting. I would love to see those. Question, Brian Campbell, do postcards have value that already have writing on it? It doesn't matter if they're written on or not. They're worth about the same regardless to most everybody. There's some instances where maybe an unused card may be more desirable and may go for a little more, but I never even look at I don't care if they're used or not. I don't care if someone's taken the stamp off the back or what the cancel says. And another question I have related to that, I have people ask me all the time, what about this stamp or what about that stamp on the back of a postcard? I've looked at probably 5 million postcards. I'm not exaggerating. In 25, 30 years, that's probably how many I've looked at. In 1 week, I could look at 5,000. So I've only found 2 stamp-related things on the back of a postcard. One was a stamp, and then another one was a cancellation. I found a few cancellations, but I've only found like 1 stamp ever worth money. I don't even look at the stamps. It's just not worth your time. There were multiple stamps. There's billions of some of those, man. I mean, just a ton of them. They're just not worth messing with. But postcards, it doesn't matter used or not. The only difference maybe is if there's some messed up cancellations. There's just some dirty writing on the front of it where the image is, and it distracts or distorts or blocks part of the image itself on the face. Other than that, I don't worry about it. Sometimes, like with Duncan talking about Chinese, if it's a can be construed as a cover. Let's say somebody's sending something from Boston or something to Canton, China in 1910. That's going to be worth something just because of the destination. Or it's going to be worth 10 times more if it's coming from Canton to, say, some tiny town anywhere in the United States at that same time frame. Covers there would be listed under into something like that. But that's a different genre. I'm not going to even think of it as a postcard when it has like a ship from to address like China from that time frame. It's not even I don't care that it's a postcard anymore. It turns into just a cover in my book. The postcard aspect means nothing when it's something like that. So anyway. Yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out for that, Dom. Yep, Annie as well. It's fine. Either way it goes. Does not matter. Duncan's also collected stamps since age 7. I have a massive assortment of stamps. My best one came from Craigslist. That was my biggest ever. Let me take that back now. I just say that, and I just thought about the other one. My best stamp collection purchase came from a Craigslist call, and it just had a bunch of stamps in a bag, and it turned out to be this massive assortment. I've got like 95% of every Australian stamp ever made came in that assortment, including the really early ones from West Australia and Queensland, all those little tiny, well, not tiny, but all the states and the whole works there. My biggest stamp related item though came from a pallet I spent $20 on, and it was mostly supplements and rare guides on how to tell counterfeit stuff that were dating from the 20s that we got like hundreds of dollars for. We made off of the pallet that $20, and this is no exaggeration. My wife remembers how long it took us to go through these. We sold them for a year, and I sold every single thing out of there, but we made like $4,600 off that $20 pallet. Now, the stamp purchase from Craigslist, I invested $150 into them. And in that purchase, I got... they had tons of sheets of stamps. There was a bunch of John Wayne. There was a bunch of just postage. And I ended up blowing a lot of that out. Sheets and all kinds of stuff. I got, on some of it I got overfaced, but the majority of it I blew out at 80 to 85% face value. So it was $100. I sold it for $85. Yeah, I could have used it and stuff. I had nothing into it. I sold a couple. There was some, it was from an air show from like 1940, and it was Stratoliner stamps, and they were like, they were Cinderellas. And I sold like 6 of those and got all that $150 back, and then we were selling that forever. I mean, I've made more on stamps. I think the next best area would be records. And then after that would be some trade cards and then labels. Those would be my top in order categories. Stamps have been my number one, though, for a very long time because it's easy. It's just, if you know your stamps, it's easy. I can go to a stamp show sometimes and make some big money at a stamp show for those who are just trying to blow out some stuff. And again, it goes back to like Z grills and the grills on the back of some of the earlier stamps, or prospecting on whether there's a good watermark or something on the back of something. Sometimes that's it. Sometimes if it's like a lot on paper or something. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on because a lot of people may not know what I'm talking about. But is it possible an eBay seller to pay less taxes if I am working a regular 9-to-5 job? Is it possible to be an eBay seller to pay less taxes if I am working a regular 9-to-5 jobs? As a eBay, I make more money as working for myself than I ever have working for anybody else. It's like night and day. All of your expenses are business expenses. Everything we write off a percentage of electricity and everything else. As long as you keep it in a confined area, you follow the rules. You don't keep changing your finances. You don't keep changing how you assess your costs, your expenses, and all that kind of stuff. We've got accountants though, of course, but Everything it's the same thing. I pay if you're an S corp, you can situate it too so that you're an employee of your own company, and then you take a paycheck out of there, so you can actually do better off in taxes and save thousands of dollars as well too. You'll far do better as a your own business if you can manage it yourself as you would working for somebody else. I worked for somebody else. I made 6 digits working for somebody else. I don't have a lot to show for it, but I have a ton to show for working as a reseller. It's night and day. It's a joke. Again, that's why I am so thankful, because man, I don't know if you haven't worked in a restaurant or some really awful place. I don't know what to tell you, but this is like a dream compared to the stuff I used to do and how long I used to have to work and how hard I worked and the sweat equity I put in to get nothing back out of it. I can't express that enough. This is such a difference. There's no comparison. The freedom is what I get out of this. I don't care if I'm filthy rich. Things have been going fairly well for us, We've got exponential growth basically right now. Things have just taken off for us in so many different avenues that I'm very thankful. I don't know how else to express it. It's just the way it is. 9-to-5 job I would never do it. I would never ever want to do a 9-to-5 job for anybody else ever again in my life. And with the way this is all going, we've figured out so much stuff. I've got the business aspect. We've got links with banks and everything else. I mean, it's just, it's the best way to go if you're able to figure out the managing part, figure out inventories and, whatever else there is to it. Again, I've done this. I was a regional manager, so I've done this before. Anybody could probably do it, but it's going to take everybody some time. 9-to-5 job for me, though, oh no, I couldn't. It'd be awful. Are they just buying based on design rarity? If you're talking about postcards are so... There's a lot to know, like railroads and sports related and famous people, locations, Tahoe, California, China. I mean, there's a lot to know in postcards. But the good thing is they're not making new ones of the vintage ones. So, you only have to know so much. Once you figure the basics out, you can take your time to get the rest, and you can at least be semi-dangerous when you go out to source. That's the key. I'm dangerous in most categories that I sell in, but I don't advance out nearly as much as I used to because I've hit most every category that I'm able to source in quantity now, so I don't have new ones I need to add in. So I'm just now... I've stopped all normal sourcing like everybody else does. I don't source like anybody else does anymore. I've literally done target sourcing now for almost 2.5 years, and that's all I do. I go out for something very specific. I'll take more time to find something, months sometimes, for a lead to pay off. But at the end of the day, the lead pays off, and boom, I go. Let me shout out something else. I've got another type of video coming out here on this channel. I metal-detect. For those who didn't know, and I've got a Tesoro Golden Saber 2 and a Silver Saber. The Golden Saber 2 is what I usually use. I got an Ace 250 that we've used too, which is a cheaper one, but it works pretty good. But I was invited to a New York troop campsite from the Civil War, and we went out there. I had a really enjoyable time. Let's just put it that way. It's probably one of the best metal detecting trips I've had. This just went on. I've got a bunch of video you'll get to see. I'm not going to announce where it's at because it's not my site. I was invited. I am just a guest here. It's near a public place though, so it was very enjoyable. We got a lot of cool stuff. I'm into buttons. We turned up some New York items and stuff. There will be a video from that. You'll get to see some of it popped out of the ground. I've metal detected for 20 plus years. Been to, we were one of the first ones to metal detect a site called the Battle of Wahoo in Florida. It was Seminole Indian sites. We did Fort Dade, Fort Armstrong, a lot of sites. So anyway, I've been metal detecting for years. We did the pullover at St. Anne's in New Smyrna Beach. We found some Confederate buttons there and stuff like that. We did St. Mark's in Florida. I metal detected in St. Augustine area. A bunch of different areas. But anyway, there'll be some pretty cool video if you're interested in actually digging up treasure, because it was a phenomenal day. It's a fresh site. If you've ever metal detected and you don't know what a honey hole, a fresh site is, this is one that was just discovered. So the amount of material in the ground was horrendous. While I was there, a couple buckles got dug. They've got their own channel, so I don't have video of that. But, anyway, it was very enjoyable. But you'll get to see some video of that, me getting dirty, and you'll get to see what I do with that. As I said, I've metal detected for a very long time. I'm very lethal with a metal detector these days. Anyway, that'll be coming up soon. Let's see. I don't even know what time it is. I think it's close to 8. We're going to go just for a few more minutes here. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, please hit the thumbs up here. I'm trying to give you the best information, answer as many questions. I do take a lot of time to do this. Duncan just got an 1841 Sydney ship letter. A ship letter usually will have some of them will say packet or something. It depends on what country it's from. But they'll say, like, the name of the ship. Some, as I said, will say packet. Some of them have, like, a special ship cancel. They'll be stampless, and they'll have a cancel. That's along the lines of what he's talking about. You'll find those in this country, too, and those usually do very well. That's a different aspect. Like, if there's a postcard that has something on that, that might be a little different. They're very, very rare. Usually you're not going to find them mixed in a postcard. They'll be with the cover or postage stamp lot. Let me head on down here. John Valentine. I found 2.5 trays with 3... each a football cards, each card in a thin, hard plastic top loaders, are what those are called. You're just gonna have to look them up. Looking them up on eBay. That's what I would do. One kilogram max. Wow. I sell to Germany too, but they all have to go. I send everything first class international to Germany. 60s through 80s postcards usually don't do very well unless they're like theme parks, some West Virginia. There's some other places, but mostly those don't do very well. Hey, you two, J&J Flippin', how you two doing? I never even went out to that last flea market. I haven't been to one this whole year. I take that back. I think beginning of the year was the last one I went to. Hopefully you two are doing well. If I ever get out again and this thing's changed the first of the year, we'll definitely have to go and do another video together, you two. Again, hope you are doing well. Let me pop down a little farther here. Well, thank you, Carl, the Lazy Reseller. $5 super chat. I just saw that. I do apologize. Jacqueline's One Stop. You have a $4.99. Why isn't it showing up here? Wow, that's terrible. I do apologize for missing those two folks. Jacqueline's One Stop, thank you as well. Thank you very kindly for that. Let me make sure I didn't miss one here. My feed's sometimes terrible, but that's bad that it missed it. I do apologize. Let's see here. Let me pop back down. I don't want to miss anybody. Let's see here. Hey, Aaron. How are you doing, Aaron? I actually read several books. Annie's talking about when she first started in the stamps. She read several books about collecting and the history and just looked up trillions of them to learn. I looked up, well, I started back in the old days. I used to go to a stamp shop and buy stamps with, money that I had earned. I had my own tongs, and I had the glassine envelopes, and I'd pick them out of their stock albums and stuff, and I filled up my own Scott's 2-album set as a child. So, I've been into stamps for a very long time. I don't do anything for 99-cent auctions. I don't care what they are. I don't list anything under $9.99 at all these days, ever. And I don't do auctions either. I don't personally recommend 99-cent auctions for anything in my book. It's just not a good way in my book at all. Yeah, and thank you too, Carl, the Lazy Reseller. Very grateful for that as well. Deanna, I've got some stamps from my grandpa back in the 70s. He got me started. Who do we trust to evaluate stamps? It's very hard to trust somebody on doing that. Ask around at your local shops would be my best guess. I don't know how many stamp shops are around anymore, in all honesty. There's one or two here, I think, but I've never been into them. I just pick up the lots, sort them myself, and sell them myself these days. Drew's got Ziploc bags full of stamps. If they're just ordinary stamps off envelopes, those are not usually worth much unless they're old and have something special in there. Yeah, Duncan's a stamp guy, as I am a stamp guy too. I've got both books. I've got Stanley Gibbons because I mess with British and foreign stamps, and I also have Harris's and Scott's stamp catalog. My stamp catalogs are like this thick. It's a big stack of them. I need 2 4-volume sets to cover everything because one set is more accepted here in this country for the numbers, so the catalog numbers. And then Stanley Gibbons is what's usually used for UK, British, Queen Vic stamps and things like that. So I keep a set of both of those. They don't have to be new because it's mostly the old stamps I'm looking for. Other than that, I use online sites for pricing and things like that. Del Camps or Hip Stamps or something along that line, as well as eBay. Those are the 3 primary stamp pricing spots that you would want to use. 3 of them there are. So just FYI, most venues that are most niches I sell in, I've got at least 2 or 3 sourcing or price sourcing spots. Most things that I sell to, I can sell on at least 2. The majority of everything I sell, I can sell on 3 platforms and do sell them in multiples. Stamps, postcards, they all sell in multiple platforms for us. 3 or more for all of those. And they are very tricky, even as a stamp person needs a book. Will Hornbuckle finds artwork the hardest to figure out? I don't buy many bigger items anymore, just by space-wise. So usually with like artwork, usually I can take a close-up image of the signature and then do a Chrome search if it's somebody known. I took art history, so I know all the websites to look up for listed artists. If the artist is listed, they're usually worth something. So I've got an app on my phone even where I can look up listed artists as well too if I'm out. But that's not been a huge ordeal for me again because I'm an artist. I do artwork. I've taken the art history classes, many of them, and I can figure where to get most of that out at least. It takes some time though. Yeah, it can be very tricky, of course. Jeffrey Smith received a negative from a buyer claiming a game didn't work. Never contacted me, not responded to messages. Any recourse, you're stuck with it. And there's nothing you can do if they say it didn't work other than reaching out and hoping. That's about the best you can do. It's going to happen. I've had it happen before. I haven't had a negative in a very long, like a year or 2, maybe 2.5, almost 3 years, but it's going to happen again. It is. So I don't, if it happens, it happens. Just move on with it. Only affects you for so long. You only got one of them. It's not going to kill you. If you want to bury it, sell a whole bunch of cheap items really quickly, and it'll bury the percentage and raise your percentage back up. If you've got enough percentage, it rounds up. So if you hit a certain point, even if you've got a negative, it still may show you as 100. Just FYI. It depends on how much you sell. Let's see here. We'll go for just a few more minutes here. Hopefully I've been helpful. I'm trying to get to some questions. I know I'm terrible on questions here. Billy Girly Girl. I have so many stamps from the early 1900s to the 90s that were my husband's grandmother's. So many, it's overwhelming. It depends. A lot of them you can literally just sell as face value. I usually buy stamps at face value, anywhere from 40 to 50% of face value. So if there's $100 worth of stamps, I'll pay them. I'll try to get it for 40. At the highest I go is usually 50, and then I sell them at 70 to 75 face value. That's how it usually works. So somebody's buying them at face value at 75 cents on the dollar. It still gives them some room. They can sell them. There's people that buy. If you want to move a lot of stamps that are only worth face value, there's companies right now that will buy them as postage at 60 to 75%, depending on the company. You get a lump sum money. You won't have to wait. You won't have to do anything else. There's no listing fees or anything else like that. It's a new business. I don't know what they do. I guess they sell it then to somebody else, or they use it for. I don't know what they do, but there's a couple companies that do that. I've talked to one before. Yeah, I got a bunch of swans. I want to say I showed them in, or at least some of them in one of my Patreon videos. I've got the really nice leather-covered Australian 2-volume stamp book set, and it's literally got a spot for everyone, including the varieties. I mean, I've got even the overprints are totally, the BOBs are totally complete, I think, other than like a couple of very earlier ones. Now, I don't have the first three Australian stamps. I think those are the first three that I'm missing right now. And I got stamp 4, and some of those are in the hundreds. There's one that's worth like $17.50, and it's not in good condition. It's worth $17.50 at that. I had somebody even look at that one just to make sure it was real, and it was legit. I was really happy. Let's see down here. Yeah, most modern stamps are literally worthless. If you have a business mind, you can make so much money, but not everyone has that, which is fine. Yeah, that's the biggest. This week, I've probably had a half a dozen people tell me they're quitting eBay. And my kids said that they saw a whole bunch making comments on YouTube about that too. If you're a business person, the business aspect is nothing. It's not. There's no headache. It's nothing. It's just like riding a bike to me. I'm so used to doing it. I've done what I do now for 20 years before I did this full time. Before I did this for, again, 10 years full time, 27 years into reselling, but 10 years full time just doing reselling. Before that, I've got 20 years more of running businesses, all the way up to a regional for the majority of the time. I mean, I handled $11.1 or $11.2 million a year in my region, and I know the math, I know the numbers, I know where projection, I know all that stuff. So to me, that's the cake part. It was figuring out all the other stuff that was the hard part, because I didn't know all this stuff. I didn't know antiques or all these collectibles or any of this stuff. I was a novice, other than some experience helping going through my grandmother's estate with a cousin and an uncle that were antique dealers. So I mean, I've always had them around. I can tell old items beyond belief. In the last 5-6 years, I've gotten, this isn't like a danger, I've gotten deadly in some of the categories we source in, because if I go there, you're not going to find anything after I went. I can just promise you that. Like records, toys, buttons for sure, postcards, stamps 100%, mostly coins, but I don't mess much with coins on eBay unless, at all. All my coins now, if they're worth messing with, I slab them and I send them on to, I'll list them on Amazon. I am ungated on Amazon, and I can list some non-sorted coins, but I only list sorted coins on Amazon. It's just so much easier. But anyway, let's see here. Hey Matt, how you doing? I think I got your last question answered too. I know I sent you a couple text or messages today. I answered like 37 messages today, and that's a slow day for me, honestly. I answered a bunch yesterday, so I wasn't behind. Anyway, I swear 75% of resellers have done metal detecting. I love metal detecting. Again, I love buttons. I love the whole works. So I have some of my finds sitting over here. I was just drooling over them. I love finding stuff, but you'll get to see it in the video. I got some really good stuff there. Anyway, very, very pleased. The best metal detecting day I've had in like 15 years. So I was enthused. Hopefully I'll get invited back again. I filled in all my holes. I did all the proper stuff, offered to share whatever I found. Anyway, it was an enjoyable experience. Will's another detectorist here too. Now, I don't know what a CTX is. I grew up on Tesoro, so that's all. I'll buy used Tesoro any day of the week. I can fix them myself. I can anything with a Tesoro. I've got the small, a 6-inch coil, I think, the pinpointer, and then I've got the standard, and I've got an elliptical for the Golden Saber 2. I love metal detecting. I'm heavy into metal detecting. When we lived in Mississippi, Andrew Jackson camped on our property, and me and the boys were out there all the time metal detecting. I found Civil War bullets, buttons, War of 1812 stuff from his campsite, and all kinds of stuff. I love that stuff. Matt's got him. He likes metal detecting and found a Hot Wheels. I found a ton of cars. If you metal detect a lot around old houses, marbles show up, 22 shells, shotgun shells, tent grommets, And then all cars and stuff. Pennies. I found a couple spills of a roll of wheat pennies before. Real nice ones, too. I found probably a couple hundred silver coins, gold rings. I found a service employee pin from a trucking company that was 14 karat gold with a quarter carat diamond in it in our backyard in Mississippi. Ended up selling that for a lot of money, actually. It paid for another metal detector, in all honesty. I was very happy. I love metal detecting. Let me pop down here. Last time I lost my metal trowel, Annie. I've broken a few and then ended up having to stop because I broke them. Yeah, you never know what you'll find. It's the thrill of the hunt to me. We went down to Mel Fisher's museum in Florida when we lived there, and the Atocha treasure. I've always been fascinated by that. I've metal detected on the beach. I've seen people pull up a cob in front of me. I never have, but I've seen it. You know, it wasn't planted. He was right there in front of me. We went right after a big storm on the inlet near New Smyrna Beach, near the Haulover, near St. Anne's, actually, for those who know Florida at all. And we did very well. I found a whole mess of bullets. We found all of the Haulover. New Smyrna, there was the Confederate blockade was run at New Smyrna, so they did a haulover with low-bottom boats. They would take off the shipments from England and France that were being snuck into the Confederacy, and they would haul over the boats. It was called a haulover. It was the narrowest point. We researched this. We spent a lot of time on that, just trying to find it, and we did find it. And it was a good source of material, let me say. But anyway, there's big history in there. Metal detecting is more along the lines of what targeted sourcing are. You research and finally get the area, then you got to get permission and all this stuff. That's what targeted sourcing is. I got to figure out where something might be at and make phone calls and cold call and, you know, try and track down people who might know this person and, you know, figure out what's in this warehouse, what was stored here and all that kind of thing, stuff like that. But anyway. Yeah, they're usually smashed, Matt. That's usually what I see. Yeah, Mike Cal, I did mention that just a few minutes ago. My personal opinion is maybe they just don't care about those categories. You know, Amazon, you can't sell certain things. Etsy, you can't sell them because it's Aiden as well, too. It might just be their whole plan. They don't care. They're making so many billion extra dollars off of getting all the fees and cutting out PayPal that who cares if they're losing coins and stuff, might be my guess. This is going on 2 years now of managed payments. 2 years ago, they knew this. So if they haven't fixed it in 2 years, I don't know. You know, I don't, and they haven't even sent a single solitary word about it. It's just like it's dropped off the face of the radar, and they're hoping nobody will remember or bring it up. That's what it seems like to me. I have no faith in them going to bring it back or anything. I have found a secondary coin source to sell on, you know, as well. Non-slabbed ones I'm talking about, but most of them I'll try to mess with slabbed ones. Some nice silver dollars or something. I bought a bunch the other day, and, you know, I've got a source to buy as much silver coins as I want right now. Mostly water hunt. Yeah, I've water hunted before. A friend of mine had a Stingray, and he had another waterproof one, and I used to borrow his when we went out in the rivers and stuff, but I never found good luck in that. Joe Miles, if I didn't thank you for the super chat, thank you very kindly. $4.99. Yeah, it's not showing any super chats today. Bunch of slides from Disney World. Well, if it's 50s, 60s, it has to be Disneyland, not Disney World. Disneyland in California. But yeah, there would be some value in those. If they're nice early shots of attractions, like close-up shots, like the machinery or anything like that, they do very well. You get $30-$40 for some of individually, or even higher than that if it's the right, like a day, a specific event or something going on at the parks on that day. I do very well in Disney stuff. I mean, I worked there for a very long time. I worked at Disney for, a very long time. We got a pension, me and the wife, from Disney. No problem, Jeffrey. Buta Sounds. We bought a metal detector for the beach. First find a Hot Wheels from the 90s, yep. If I were to start wholesale at 17 right now, what are my chances? Wholesale's tough at 17, not knowing the business. No disrespect by age or anything else like that, but I wouldn't have been ready to walk into an office and try and wheel and deal a wholesale deal. If you don't have a business, well, let's first off, at 17, you're not going to be able to sign a contract with anybody in this state, I can tell you for sure. To be legally binding to sign a wholesale agreement, you have to be 18 if you're doing mass quantity. I'll tell you that right now. Because it has to be legally binded. We have insurance backup on everything. We've got statements from the bank. We have business accounts. So I have an EIN number. All of that has played and been necessary to purchase wholesale lots for us. We've been we're at a point now where we don't have to front any money either, so I can just get it and pay in 30 days. And sometimes I usually can get it before money's due and already have money coming in and pay it off before it's even due and not have to worry. But the market's still there. Anybody can do it if you sink into it, but you're going to have some drawbacks at age 17, I can tell you, personally. It's just the way it is. Not knowing enough about the business aspect is probably going to be the hardest part in figuring out, running P&Ls and figuring out your profit margins and figuring out what's making you money and what's the best source of advertising and stuff like that. That's going to be your biggest problem with a wholesale lot. Wholesale isn't like just list it and forget about it. You got to figure out keywords, places to list. You've got to get your costs down. There's a lot to wholesale. Wholesale just isn't. It's hard. Mini Lab, yeah, I know Mini Lab. I do know those. I've seen one before that was, it is a Mini Lab. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay. That makes sense then. I don't know the numbers of them. So the slides look like they're of the 1964 New York World's Fair then. That's what those slides are of then, Matt. That would be my honest guess if it has a sphere. That's the biosphere, I guess you would say, at the 64 World's Fair. And Disney did have the People Mover there. The Wedway People Mover was there, as well as some other things from Disney. So that would be my guess, and that would be from 64 if that's what you have. Tootsie Toys I do fairly well. I found quite a few of those too. There's sites in northern Michigan for Civil War, I'll tell you right now. Without a doubt. There's War of 1812 sites up there galore. There's a ton of those up there. I know somebody who personally detects all over Michigan. He scores some really good stuff. Troiani's been up there too. Don Troiani did that area, if I'm not mistaken. I live about 25 minutes from New Smyrna. New Smyrna was always great for stuff like that. Oh, 68, Trina, 68. Yeah, maybe it is 68. 64, 68. 64 had the Wedway People Mover, so it just depends. No idea what the Detectorists is. We watched Plebs on BBC 3, I think it was. I'm big. I used to watch Monty Python like religiously. I know like lines from almost every one of them. All 6 years, 6 seasons, all the movies. We could get BBC 9 out of Windsor here, just with regular antenna. I'm so close to Canada. So I grew up on all the Canadian shows. But we watched Plebs, and then they changed it after the second year, and then we couldn't get into it anymore. They usually kill I don't watch much TV at all, because they usually end up killing the series, and then I can't watch it anymore. Yeah, Perisphere, but the Perisphere is going to have it's not called an obelisk, but there's another piece right next to it. I doubt he'd have slides from 39, though. Let me just answer one more here, and then I'm going to have to let it go here. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button. We're so close to 100 right now. I've got 143 people in-house. I've got 80 likes right now. Yeah, Epcot was built in 82. I remember that very fondly. I got my first Where Is My Item case from a buyer today. The item was shipped the next day and is just slow in transit via USPS. I provided tracking. Just keeping posted. I would contact them and tell them you're keeping track of it. You'll be monitoring it and seeing what goes on. There's nothing you can do whatsoever. they cannot claim it's lost unless it hasn't had a tracking in at least 10 days. Do not open up a case. If they open it up, don't push it to go up one level. Just let it ride and see what happens. 10 days is the point where eBay, 10 full days. So on the 11th day, it can be declared lost, and then they can force you to refund it. But until that point, as long as there's tracking every, say, 6-7 days, you're still safe. Again, apologize, tell them you did everything you could. It's out of your control. Express that there has been some issues going on in an email to them. I would check with them too in another day or two afterwards just to make sure. Keep see, when that happens, I keep track of them. I'll keep checking them every single morning. Where's it at? What's going on with it? Sometimes I have a list of 3 or 4 of those that I watch. I just literally cut and paste the tracking number, and I go straight to the post office's site. And you can track you can put a whole bunch in at a time. I just put a comma between them, and I can just cut and paste a whole bunch, and it'll tell me all of them where they're at all at the same time. That's the easiest way to take care of those in my book. I've never had an issue doing that way at all. So anyway, I do appreciate everybody coming on. Again, one last time, if you haven't hit the like button, pop that like button there. Do have some videos coming out. Those in Patreon, it's a longer video. It's got a bunch of different details. There's a bolo in there. There's some insider info, some button info and stuff in there too, and market value trending right now in that video. You want to watch it. It's got some information. It should relate to many other topics and areas you're talking about and you're selling for those in Patreon. So I do appreciate everybody coming on, and I do hope you have a good evening. Again, one last time, hit that like button if you haven't, and we will have a good evening going on there.